Tell me, darling, could we run away? We could hide away by the cactus desert blue. I can see it just a mile.
Alright, welcome back, guys, to our channel, Best Freaking Friends Forever. Today we're going to talk about two movies, The Santa Claus and Die Hard. And we thank you guys for tuning in and for subscribing if you did. If you haven't, please do so. So we're going to get started. We will start with The Santa Claus.
Oh, we're going to do the icebreaker.
Oh, yes, the icebreaker.
Okay. Do you want to do yours first?
We can, yeah. So our icebreaker is a meme. So I chose this one, and it says, and I love it. It says, because I find myself doing this all the time. It says, when you're cleaning your room and you get distracted by stuff you found. And I find I do that all the time. Like, I'll start wearing it, like I'll put on stuff, or I'll start looking through photo albums or whatever. So I found that one was very fitting to me.
Oh, yeah. I think that, yeah, I saw that one too. And she's got like a Mardi Gras mask type thing on.
And she's
playing a video game.
And she's got a neck pillow.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of us can relate to her. Okay, so mine's kind of fitting for because we're going to talk about Die Hard and Santa Claus, but this one's for Die Hard. I don't know, it'll all connect. Okay, so I'm going to send it to you. And it says, Chuck Norris was here and he chose scissors. And it's a rock. It's a big old rock and it's cut in half. I just love a good Chuck Norris meme. And you know, he likes them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw a thing, or it was like there's sirens going on. So you'll probably hear sirens in the background. But Chuck Norris was on an interview and he said his favorite one was Chuck Norris does not do push-ups, he pushes the earth down.
Mm-hmm.
He said that was his favorite one. I was like, I do like that one. But that one's fitting because his partner in Walker, Texas Ranger is in Die Hard.
Yes, he is. Trevette.
Yeah. Yep. So I know I sat there all night last night, like, I know that guy. And Tony was like, he looked it up and he was like, oh, he's from Walker. And I was like, how did you not know that? So, all right. All right. So we're going to start with.
We'll talk about some stats. So the Santa Claus was made in 1994, came out the weekend of November 11th. It grossed $145 million in the U.S. Worldwide, it grossed almost $191 million. Opening weekend, it made $19 million. And it had at 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. And its budget was only $22 million. So it did fairly well. It was an hour and 37 minutes long. So, and inflation today, I think we talked about that it would be, so if it would have grossed in the U.S. 145 million back in 94, today that would have been 254 million. So that was kind of interesting, or that's kind of interesting. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and it did better opening weekend than Die Hard.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
And it was a summer movie, which is surprising, like I said earlier when we were talking.
Yeah. So. Yeah. What's your favorite part in the Santa Claus?
See, I kind of have two. I kind of like where they finally accept him as Santa Claus and they're okay with Charlie being around him. And then I don't know why, but I love the part when Charlie tells Neil, that's okay. You were just in denying your inner child.
Yeah.
And he tells him that he's going to be a great psychiatrist one day. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just love those two parts.
Yeah. I just, there's all these Santa movies.
Mm-hmm.
Miracle on 34th Street. This one, there's so many, I can't think of all of them, but this one is my favorite. I like this one. And I just remember as a kid watching it and thinking, my favorite part, and during that part thinking, they're in the workshop when he first gets in there and he gets to see the workshop and just how cool that looked. And I thought, as a kid, like, how cool would it be to see it? And it's so pretty, like the detail they put in things. And then that train runs through and Charlie's on it. Like, I like that. And then they take him up to his bedroom and that's pretty, like all the detail in that room. And then he goes out on like the little patio thing, and he looks down. He talks about seeing a polar bear, and I don't know, just as a kid, you can imagine all of that, and that's my favorite part. I like that.
Well, like you said about like, there's just a lot of, from Charlie's perspective, there's a lot of like childhood wonder. Like where Charlie still believes and he has all this in him, and then he's trying to go with Tim Allen's character and Scott, and he obviously he's an adult, so he doesn't have that inner child like Charlie does. So I think it's pretty cool that Charlie kind of brings out the child in him.
Oh yeah,
and helps him have that and become Santa Claus.
Because if it wasn't for Charlie, he would not have become Santa. Because Charlie like put the suit on and woke him up, and and I like the little relationship he has with the one reindeer. Was it Comet?
Yes.
And
well, even Bernard. I mean, I think Bernard's he's got a good arc for a supporting character, a small supporting character even. He's got a pretty good arc, I think.
Yeah, and he's been in a lot of movies.
And TV shows, yeah.
Yeah, he's a pretty good. I think he's one of those underrated actors. He does really good.
Yeah, especially in the show Numbers, like just his performance in that show he was real. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's a good show.
No, we watch him in stuff that you don't watch around children. He's in a lot of that stuff. Let's see. And then they have the other two, and I don't think do this one justice. Like this one, I feel like it's on its own, and like I know that they do the next two, but this one's just really good. I like whenever he gives them Neil and the mom. He gives them their gifts.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because one Christmas, my aunt wanted this doll that I guess like you do something on her back and her hair would grow. And so like her hair longer or shorter, and she told her daughter she always wanted that doll. She never got it for Christmas, and her daughters bought it for her for Christmas one year.
Yeah.
I always, whenever I watch the Santa Claus and I see that part where he gives the old toys like that, I always think of my aunt.
Well, and I think a lot of adults have felt that way. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of that part of the movie does kind of go back to that, where people are like, yeah, back in the day, I know, there were things I wanted that I didn't get. And especially when you're a kid and you do believe in him and then he doesn't give you what you want. That's kind of, it's hard.
Yeah. What else in the movie? I'm trying to think of some other things that
I feel like Tim Allen's character Scott, they do a lot of like adult jokes for a kid. Like we talked about kids movies, like how when the reindeer are first on the roof and Charlie says, well, what are we going to do? Or where did they come from? And Scott says, they're a gift from the cable company. We are now getting the Disney Channel. Merry Christmas, that kind of thing. And then when he's in the workshop, like he does a lot of alluding to Home Improvement, which is a show he was on back then as well. Yes. So like with the ho 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 and his little Tim voice on Home Improvement.
Well, and I noticed that too. We were talking about that the other day, and he said, "I hope there's a Taylor."
Yes. So that was alluding to, and then if you noticed, a lot of people probably didn't catch the waitress's name.
Judy.
It was Judy, and then I think they had a Jill there too at some point. Or what was the top elf that gave him the hot chocolate? What was her name?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I can't think of her name now either, but I think it was kind of I thought there was a Jill there somewhere that they alluded to, but maybe not. But yeah, just little things like that. When he goes down and he starts flying, he says, it's okay, I'm used to it. I was, I think, born in the 60s, or I lived in the 60s. And I mean, just little jokes like that a kid would not get, obviously. But
he did a couple of his growls.
Yes, he did, or his grunts.
He does that in Home Improvement. Yeah. Oh, I asked Tony what his favorite part was. I was like, what was your favorite part in the movie? And Tony said he likes, he said something, he's like, well, I'd always like to have, I can't remember what they called it in the movie. And he said it like that, where they have in the sleigh, they have the hot chocolate and the cookie pops out.
Oh, yeah. I can't think of it either right now, though.
Yeah. And it's funny, too, because, like, the elves come up with all these, like, high high tech tools and gadgets. And it's kind of like, well, did the old Santa not want to, get up to date on all the highest all the greatest technology? So maybe Tim Allen kind of needed to step in and take over.
Yeah, maybe. Well, and I
Well,
thought it was kind of interesting too that none of the elves, like when Tim Allen's character Scott shows up at the North Pole, they don't seem very upset that they have a new Santa, that the other Santa is gone. And I'm kind of like, you just lost Santa.
yeah.
I mean, I don't remember thinking that as a kid, but I was like thinking this time, you just lost Santa. There's a new Santa. The old one's gone. And it doesn't even seem like they were that like,
Yeah, just okay. There he is.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting too.
Well, Bernard definitely knew. He had to have known some way or another because he was just like, okay, let's get you set up,
Yeah.
And then he had to explain the clause.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the what? The Santa Claus. And yeah, I always thought that was funny. That little part there where they get the magnifying glass out and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then it's all around the card. Because, of course, they can't see that when they're reading it the first time, when it's just telling him to put on the suit.
Mm-hmm. Well, so Disney has a rule where they don't hire anybody that has a criminal record. And I guess Tim Allen has been arrested before.
Oh, yes. He had an interesting past.
I picked out a little fact here about the movie, and I thought this was cute. When Scott and Charlie arrive at the North Pole, I always like that scene too.
Mm-hmm.
Music's playing in the background, and the pole comes up, and Charlie's like, "That's the North Pole." I'm like, "How does he know that?" So at the North Pole, the first time an elf enters the code 1239 into a keypad, which allows the sleigh to be lowered. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was created in December of 1939, hence the 1239.
Ah, I didn't catch that, but that's cool.
Yeah, I like that little fact. Yeah, I just like that. But yep, I'm sure everybody's watched it. If you have and you have a favorite part, you can comment and let us know. I don't know. I always like to know everybody's favorite part. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it tells me something about him. Who knows? But I always like to know everybody's favorite. And that's the curiosity in me.
Well, I think it's, yeah, or if you notice something that we didn't notice, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Die Hard. And
all right, switching gears. So its budget, so it was filmed in July, or it came out July 15th, 1988. It had a budget of $28 million. It grossed almost $84 million in the US and $141 million worldwide. And its opening weekend, it grossed only not even 700,000. It only grossed like almost 600,000. So it didn't do very well even its opening. Well, it wasn't great its first weekend, but with the inflation today, it would have grossed 182 million. We found out. So that's kind of cool. And it had a 94. So it did better than Santa Claus with Rotten Tomatoes. It had a 94% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was longer too. It was 2 hours and 12 minutes run time. So
yeah, well, so I've never watched it. Last night was the first time I watched it for our video today, and I actually bought it the night before, and I told Tony last night, I was like, well, you probably won't be in home so that we can watch it together. He's like, oh no, I'm coming home. So he really likes it, and he came home and we watched it together. So there's, they always talk, we'll talk about it towards the end when we're done talking about the movie, but the controversy of, is it a Christmas movie or is it not? But we will talk about that after we're done talking about this, and what we think. If we think it's a Christmas movie or not. And I want to know in the comments. Please comment. Tell me if you think this is a Christmas movie or not. So what was your favorite part in the movie, in Die Hard?
I like the yippee-ki-yay.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's just because he wanted, like, they talked about it and they, to make it more comedic. I just think I kind of like the way Hans says it too in the end.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that's an iconic scene. I think it's an iconic line.
Yes.
I think
they said that it's in every movie.
It is. Because I've watched the first 3 so far, and it's been in every one.
Yeah.
Yep. It's his catchphrase. It's his,
Yeah. And I like the part where he keeps trying to get some help to come in because the phone lines are cut off. So he keeps
Mhm.
trying to get help, and he finally is able to get a cop to come and just check things out. And the cop's getting ready to leave, and he's trying to bust the window, so he throws a body out that he had just
Yes.
killed. And so of course, well, that's Officer Winslow. That's how I know him
Yep.
from Family Matters. But he throws it out on the car, and he freaks out and backs up, and um, he says, "Welcome to the party." I'm like, yeah, a
Yeah.
party that started out nice and happy, and now you're trying to fight for your life.
Yep.
But I did find a couple of facts that I liked about it. Like I said, I've never seen it, so the one I found is in 2007, Bruce Willis donated John McClane's undershirt to the Smithsonian Museum.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And we used to go to DC a lot when I was younger. And the last time I went to DC, well, no, because we took the kids there a few years ago. But the last time I went with my family was the year I was pregnant with. Um, but we would go to the Smithsonian there in DC, and they always had really cool things like that. I'm glad actors and stuff donate that stuff. Um, I got to see the iconic um, Dorothy's red shoes.
Ah.
I got to see those as a kid. That's really cool. And then got to see one of Elvis's outfits, like his famous like leather jackets. I got to see one of those. I'm trying to think, but yeah, they always had something in there that was really cool to see. And looking back, I'm like, oh, I didn't appreciate it as a kid like I should have. I need to go back. I need to go back to that museum. It's really cool. And then Bruce Willis's favorite role has always been John McClane.
And I could see that because he did Moonlighting before, and so no one wanted him for this movie. Like he wasn't. I mean, he was on the tail end of anybody to get this. Like they offered it because they wanted it to be an action adventure, so they wanted an action
Mm-hmm.
actor,
Right.
an action hero. So they were thinking Schwarzenegger or Stallone, or even I think they even offered it to Clint Eastwood, and
Yeah.
all of them turned it down. And finally, I think his manager came on and or got a hold of them and were like, "Okay, we'll do," And they didn't. They were like, "He's not an action hero. He was in Moonlighting. He's more comedic romance, like romance show. He's not
Yeah.
for this movie." And people thought the same thing. Like when they did the trailer and they put the trailer out and he was in it, everybody booed and laughed at it. So they took him off the poster because they didn't want him at first, or like they didn't think he was the right fit. And
Mm-hmm.
even I guess I watched Movies That Made Us because we always watch that for our research too. And they had to fire the original writer and they got a new one. And so he was basically writing days ahead of shooting. So, and there was some flub ups with that because they were only writing days ahead of what they were shooting. And Bruce comes in and he's like, "Why don't you give me any more comedy?
Mm-hmm.
Lines or whatever, even a little bit." And the writer was like, "Well, your people told us not to. Your people told us we didn't want you didn't want rewrites." He's like, if you can give me comedy, give me comedy." And I think that's where his little one-liners come in
Mm-hmm.
because of that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I I think that makes the movie because that was a whole new action figure to the world in that movie because they were comedic. He was comedic. He was not the necessarily I mean, he had the figure, but not. I mean, he wasn't muscular like Arnold Schwarzenegger was.
Mm-hmm.
So he was definitely and he kind of hid it first, and was not going towards the danger necessarily, but he was trying to get help to come deal with it. So that was definitely a different type of, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. And I got frustrated with him when he would radio down to the bottom down below,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy that was in charge would not listen. Like, you don't understand. These are not amateurs that you're dealing with. And what is Officer Winslow's name in this movie? I keep saying Officer Winslow, but that's not who he is in this movie.
Officer Powell, Al Powell. That's his
Yeah.
name.
Um, I like that he they had like a relationship going on over the radio like that. And
Yep. Well, and even in movies that made us, they said, you're at the end of the movie and they're coming out, like him and his wife, John and his wife, and you're waiting for the big hug and they're reunited. And what's he do? He looks at Al and he goes and hugs Al.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So it was kind of like it was their romance, basically, that they were.
Yeah. I mean, look at it though. Like you don't see him and her much. Like
No. Well, and yeah.
the only romance you see is there when they're in the bathroom talking and she's like, I've missed you. And then she has to go do a speech and then you don't see them together anymore. So it
Yep.
is between him and Al. Like there is that relationship, that bromance, which was really cute. I really liked it. It
I
was,
thought it was, yeah.
and I'm not seeing the others to know if like I don't know, in the others, do they talk about them more?
Um, Owl makes an appearance in the second one at the beginning when he's getting in trouble again. He sends him fingerprints from a scene. And he's like, "Are you getting in trouble again?" Basically, like, "What'd you get into now?" type thing. But
Yeah.
I don't think he's been in the third one. I haven't seen him in the third one though, so I'm not sure
Okay.
if he continues. It's definitely not as big as the first one though.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's disappointing because
Yeah.
I liked them talking back and forth. I really liked that.
Well, and I think it showed John's vulnerability, but at the same time, it made him stronger knowing that someone was out there fighting. Because he had to, I mean, Al kind of had to fight for John. And like you said, tell him, hey, these are not, like, you need to listen to him. He's on the inside.
Mhm.
He knows what's going on. He's seeing
Right.
this.
Well, and there was reasons why he didn't want to tell his name. He knew they were listening on the radio, and he
Yep.
didn't want to tell his name. And how did they find out his name?
I think one of the coworkers, one of his wives,
Oh yeah,
coworkers, they brought him in, and he was like, "John, you just need to tell him what, give him what, or and I think he didn't want them to know because of his wife. He knew his wife was in there, and if they found out and noticed, that's why I don't know. Did she put the picture down or did he? I think because he turned the picture over, and when Hans finally figures it out, he turns the picture over, and then that's when it clicks with him that John has a wife and she's there, like she's
Right.
so that's when he decides to use her to his advantage.
Right. Yeah, it's oh
Well,
yeah,
and the
it made me mad. That scene where the guy went in there and did all that. And even John was like, tell them you don't know me. Like, you don't know what you're playing with. Like, I don't know what point that guy was trying to prove. Like,
I don't either. I didn't understand why he would do that.
When I first watched it, I thought he went in there to help them with what they needed help with. I didn't think he was going to do all that mess with John like he did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I really liked the movie. It's one that I would watch again. I've only ever watched it once. I would watch it again. So, do you think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
Like we talked about earlier, I'm kind of mixed because they do. I mean, John McClane is humming and singing Christmas carols.
Mm-hmm.
When Al walks into the entrance to the building, he's humming them. They play it all throughout the video.
Even during like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like when the truck first gets there to break in, they play it. You can hear it, and it's ominous or whatever.
Yep.
They still play it. Yeah.
And then John, when he gets the machine gun, and like we talked about, he sends the body down in the elevator, and he wrote on his shirt, "Now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho."
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I feel like it could go either way. I could see why people would think that it's not, but
Yeah.
I feel like I could see why people think it might. I mean, I don't feel like it necessarily gives you Christmas cheer,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
But
I would have to say, I think I'm going to go more towards no. I don't know. Maybe if I watch it a few more times, I might feel differently because it was my first time. So I had to like take it all in and really pay attention, try to remember things for when we did this. So maybe if I go back and watch it again, more and not have to be like, I have to watch every single second, that sort of thing. Maybe I'll feel different. But I'm leaning towards no. I don't think and Tony says yes, it is. But I asked a few people. I just went around and asked different people, and the majority, I think everybody pretty much said no. They leaned more on the no side than the yes.
I know it's a big thing though. People are like, no, it's not. Don't consider it. So I do think, and they get all bent. I mean, they really get into it. I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's it's interesting to see.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Has a hashtag on Twitter. So there are. I mean, I think because there's no hashtag for Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
This is true. There's not.
So I guess I don't know. But so far, I've not heard the majority swing that it is a Christmas movie. My brother told me at first, he's like, yeah, it's a Christmas movie. I was like, okay. But then he's like, but I wouldn't put it, he told me, he's like, I wouldn't put it in a Christmas lineup. So like when he would say, if he would talk about Christmas movies, he would not line it up with them. I was like, so you're saying no? That's what the conclusion I got out of him was he does not think it's a Christmas movie.
Which makes sense. I mean,
it's good though. It's a good movie. I like it.
It is a good movie, and it's got good acting. I mean, it brings actors that we haven't seen before. I mean, really, Alan Rickman. I mean, no one had. He was
so young looking in that, and
he is. I mean, yeah, he had been fresh off of Broadway in London. This was his first movie role.
Oh,
so
okay.
I mean, and it was funny because in the scene where he where we, like, if you've never watched it before, you probably thought, oh my gosh, John has been tricked by him. He's going to get, like, this is it for John. When they meet, for those of you that have not seen it before, and everybody's like, oh no, like, he's really going to be tricked, like, he's really going to be hurt. But I guess they were talking at the craft table, like the food table. And he was talking in just a regular accent, or like I guess a U.S., not a British accent, but like just an American accent more. And they're like, can you do that in the movie? And that's how, because they wanted them to meet, but they didn't know how to make it happen. And they were more than halfway through shooting, and they're like, oh my gosh, we haven't had them meet yet. Like, they've not even met. So then when he did that, they were like, okay, we've got an idea. We can do this and make them meet. And it was pretty cool to watch John know, no, I didn't get tricked by you. Like, I knew it was you the whole time. But that was pretty cool. And then I also thought it was pretty cool how when they drop him, like when he falls off, he actually did that scene because they had to do the close-up, and he fell 40 feet onto, like, the blue mat. And they let him go. They told him they were going to let him go on 3, and they let him go on 2 so that they'd get the reaction. Genuine. So I was like, I guess he wasn't very happy about it at first, but it got the shot, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a good movie. It's got good acting, and it's another one of those movies that has stood the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, people are still talking about it. I mean, there's still a thing of whether it's a Christmas movie or not. So.
Yeah, but that makes it fun. That makes it fun too, to have that with it. All right, everybody, that's it. We talked about memes, we talked about Die Hard and the Santa Claus, but most of all, we appreciate you. We thank you for watching. We ask you to subscribe, like the video, leave us a comment. Which one out of the 2 is your favorite? What's your favorite part? And until next time, that's it in a nutshell.